welcome to Priyanka Chopra to a special edition of the New Indian Express's chat. Priyanka, it's so good to see you. I've just finished watching White Tiger, so I have to, of course, begin with that. And I want to
Okay.
congratulate you on a fantastic performance. And I can see why there's so much buzz around it for the Best Supporting Actress. Hope you get it, yay! And
I hope so.
one of the remarkable quotes in that is when Balram says that it's the century of the brown man and the yellow man, but it's actually the century of the brown woman, I think. What do you think, Priyanka?
I think it's a century of women in general, for sure. I think that, we are seeing a time which is so exciting for women where we are banding with each other, we're supporting each other, we're creating opportunities for each other. And it's so wonderful to see. And, I've had the good fortune of aligning with so many of my female friends, colleagues, peers. So it's a really great time for sure.
You've just also finished your autobiography. I mean, you've been really busy. It's called Unfinished.
Didn't know what else to do in the quarantine.
So it's called Unfinished, and I love that because it means that there's so much more coming from you. Global domination?
I mean, that's a general term I used many years ago, but I
Yeah.
think I think I've grown up from that. Writing an autobiography or a memoir is such a strange thing. It really forces you to think about, the minutia of your memories. And I realized that I was running so fast, I didn't have any memories. I didn't remember anything when I sat down to write this book. So I had to like really I wrote like like a floor plan almost. I wrote milestones that I remembered. Okay, my first school, or my boarding school, or whatever. And then I had to fill it up. It was such a strange process, but once I started writing Kaveri, I can't like I almost, and it was during quarantine. I was home for 6 months. I had peace and quiet to really really introspect, and it just sort of flowed out of me. There are things I've never addressed that I've addressed in this book. There are things I'll never talk about again that I've addressed in this book. I've It's not something that talks about, oh, these are my achievements or my laurels. It's really a dissection of like my emotions, my failures. So I'm terrified about about the world reading it. But I'm also I think as a woman on now the other side of 35, I've reached a place in my life where I'm content. I'm self-assured. It's taken 20 years of being in the business, but to reach a place where I think I found my feet, and I can look back on my life and say that even though these are things that troubled me or traumatized me, or I've kind of moved on to become the woman that I am today. And that was a very empowering experience.
Why did you want to do that? Was it because you wanted to tell other women that, look, it's not so easy, but it's not so hard either?
Actually, that was not my intention at all. When I first, the idea was to write a book
Hmm.
initially. I've done a lot of op-eds. I've written a lot of pieces for newspapers and magazines, and I've always been fond of writing. But I've been scared of structured writing, like a novel or a book or a screenplay. So I thought I'd take a stab at it with writing a memoir because it's like easy. It's my life. So how hard could it be? Not realizing that it's not, you have to scratch beneath the surface, and that's not easy. I whatever I try to do, I try to do it really well, and the only way of telling my story well was to actually scratch beneath the surface. And it took a couple of years for me to garner the courage to do it. But when I did it and I read back the book, I remember when I got the first manuscript back, like compiled, and I read it, I was proud of my achievements. I was proud of having gone through what I went through. I kind of feel like I wear my scars as my medals. They've made me who I am. And then I felt like if I share it, at least the people who know me, who would read the book because they know me, I hope that it makes them feel inspired that, I'm a small town girl who comes from very unassuming beginnings. If I can be sitting here with a career that I'm proud of, self made, then anyone can do it. I hope it's a sense of inspiration. But for people who don't know me really well and for whom I'm like dinner table conversation or, an Instagram post that you read about. I hope that they get familiarity with me as a girl, as a human being, and as a person.
What are the things that you're terrified about? You said you're terrified that the world is going to read that. We're at a
um,
disadvantage because we've not read it. So what are we going to?
I'm very glad.
That's such a pity. So what are we
I'm
going to?
expecting a text after you do, Kaveri.
I'm sure it'll be exciting. But what are we going to be reading? Give us a sense of that.
um, I mean, I can't really get into specifics because I really want you to, but it talks a lot about my rejections, my failures, professionally, personally. I talk a lot about my mistakes and my regrets, and how I've sort of, evolved and moved on in a very personal way. But I think why I'm mostly terrified is my whole career. I've not let anyone really scratch below the
Hmm.
surface. I've been ferociously private.
Hmm.
I I I I put out pictures, and I'm very superficial about
Hmm.
sort of my personal life that I share. You'll see photos and but you'll never see. I've never been someone to discuss, my life, and I'm glad I did it on my own terms and with the book in my own words, directly from me to the reader or the listener, because I have an audiobook as well.
Hmm.
So, that's why I'm terrified, because I'm literally, it's my words to you about dissecting my life in a very, very personal way.
Priyanka, that's the most exciting thing about celebrity in the 21st century, isn't it? That you can reach your reader, your audience directly. You really don't need intermediaries anymore. Do you think that?
Well, when I first joined social media, and I was one of the first people to get onto
Yeah.
Twitter in India, and I was very excited about it. In fact, I've spoken about this in the book as well, my changing relationship with social media as time goes along. Um, but I think that there's such a joy in being able to directly communicate with people that care, or people who support you or follow you. And I think the perils of it, of course, like everyone faces, is, a community of very few people who just live for spewing hate and venom. And when I sort of look at my socials, and I'm very active on them, and I love sharing, my life in, a sort of superficial way, but I love sharing my life with my, people who want to follow me. And I deliberately choose not to focus on the negative, because I have such a huge number of people that come in for my support, that care about my growth, that have invested themselves in actually my career, because they see me as like a pioneer, and that's what I like to focus on, because I I need the wind beneath my wings. I'm walking on very unprecedented
Hmm.
territory. I don't know this. I'm creating my own opportunities. No one is sitting there, giving me these opportunities, and I need that support, and I have a tremendous amount of it. I also have a tremendous amount of skepticism, but I've gotten used to that in
Yeah.
my life now. Everyone's always been skeptical about, what my next step will be. But hey, when you try something new, there's always bound to be resistance, and I'm just grateful. So I've sort of, my relationship changed with social, but I've pivoted my brain to just focus on all the support and love that I get for all my endeavors.
Yeah, and talking about pivoting your brain and creating these opportunities, you're also at the right place and at the right time, in the sense that America, especially, has woken up to the whole idea of diversity. So, talk a little about this whole idea of colorblind casting, even that you don't necessarily have to play Indian to be there, to be in the movies or OTT.
I don't think it should be called colorblind. I think we need to be color conscious,
Color
actually.
conscious. Okay,
Yes, I
that's
think it's
interesting.
important.
Yeah.
I think it's important to create opportunities for ethnicities that haven't had those opportunities. And I think it's important. And when I first came into America, with Quantico, it took a lot of digging my heels in to get a part that was not the stereotype of the Indian you see in Hollywood,
Right.
or that you see in global entertainment. It took a lot of, pounding the pavement to say, I want to do different kind of roles. I want to get out of that stereotype. It took a lot of auditions. It took a lot of meetings for me to get the kind of work that I'm doing now. It's been 5 years and 10 years since I started working in the US. So I don't think it's easy. I think this is a time where the demand has been loud. The demand for diversity is required
Yeah.
because we have the ability to stream across, like the White Tiger, for example.
Yeah.
It's going to stream across 160 countries. I don't think that would have happened 5 years ago with someone giving that kind of a budget to a movie with an Iranian director and an all Indian cast in shot in India
Yeah.
with a book that's written by an Indian. I don't think that would have happened, but it has taken the pushing of a few very powerful South Asians um, within America who have demanded for a change. And whether it's Mindy Kaling, whether it is Aziz Ansari, whether it is Hassan Minaj, whether it is Riz Ahmed, we like as South Asian or me, there's a demand for saying that we want to be outside of the box, and that's sort of shaken it up. And of course, the fact that we are consuming entertainment from all over the world. I was
Right.
watching an Iranian show the other day. My mom watches Korean dramas. Like, we've never had that kind of cross pollination of entertainment. So it's a great time, and it's really important to take that opportunity into our stride. But it's not easy. So when I mean that we need to be aware of creating opportunities for minorities specifically in global entertainment, and that's all I can do as I'm an actor, I'm a producer, and all I can do in my quest to be able to do that is align myself with different shows. I'm doing a couple of, like, two or three movies right now which are all South Asian casts, and will have opportunity for South Asian writers, female writers. I'm a big champion of creating that opportunity. So I think that it requires being aware of where opportunity was denied
Yeah.
and creating it, rather than saying that we shouldn't look at where someone comes from.
So next is going to be what? Priyanka land, like Zonda land, and it'll be Priyanka, powering South Asian characters. Why not?
Yes, why not? My company stands for it. Purple Pebble Pictures, even in India, when I first started the company, I didn't go with doing mainstream big Bollywood
Yeah.
movies. I started with regional films because I really
Marathi, in
believe
fact.
Marathi, Assamese, Sikkimese,
Yeah.
Bhojpuri, Punjabi. So I've always been sort of lateral in the way I think, because it was for me, again, at that time, this is like 7 or 8 years ago, for me it was creating opportunity where support wasn't given in a big way, and I wanted to be able to do that. And then when I went to America and started working there, it's the same funda of my
Mm.
company, is
Yeah.
to be able to do that. And that's always sort of been my quest, because I didn't have it when I joined the film industry, there or here. I didn't see casting for South Asians, or casting for somebody outside who comes in and says, I want to act. So it was always like a struggle, and I've always tried to, in my own small way, make it a little bit easier. So I don't know, Shonda is obviously a much huge talent to compare myself with. I'm at a much smaller scale, but the direction, I think, is something I align with her on.
So where are we at this moment in global entertainment and in the world in general?
I mean, that's a really large question. That can
No.
be a discussion, but I let me just start with saying I'm not an expert on global relations, but I think it's a terrifying time for us as a world, because this pandemic has affected all of us, and so many of us adversely. It has shown the effects of the socio-economic divide that we were aware of, but it sort of brought it into the fore of the people that have and the have-nots of the world. So I think we have a lot of healing to do as a human, as a world, and I think even and in India, in America, I mean, the two countries that I at least straddle, I think we need to work towards sort of creating a oneness and a togetherness, instead of focusing on what we don't have and the anger, because it's a really tough time, and it's a really tough time for everyone. And the only way to sort of get over what 2020 was and what 2021 is looking like, which is again like sort of scary and temperamental, I think we just really need to focus on coming together. And we saw that in 2020 while the pandemic was happening.
Mm.
We saw so many people, communities sort of coming together to help each other, people who have access and privilege coming together to sort of help the community. And that was such a wonderful thing to see. I consider myself a humanitarian. I'm very apolitical. So I want to be able to see the world going in that direction, and not from a utopian place, but
Right.
really from a truthful place.
So, do you think the White Tigers come at the right time? It talks about issues that the world really has experienced firsthand. It talks about inequality, lack of dignity. Those are things that people really came, were really out there in during the pandemic. So, is it at the right time?
Absolutely. It absolutely is. I mean, it's at the right time for being made. I think that, it is authors generally in history of great countries. If you see, novelists have always had this like really difficult task of using their material for self-reflection of difficult subjects, and novelists have always managed to do that.
Yeah,
And I think Arvind Adiga did it so beautifully in this novel. It was a turn of the century. It was at that time in India when we were like on our way to becoming an economic superpower, and it was like a really interesting time, which is why the reflection of the book is so acutely relevant right now, not just for India but for the whole world, because of the fact that the pandemic has brought this subject up to the fore, and the division is so apparent. And I think it's come at a great time where we have to really think about how desensitized we are to the world, and what respect means and what equality means. And I am not a head of state. I'm not someone who's a lawmaker. I can't change things, but I can have a point of view as a filmmaker, and I can use my abilities as a filmmaker to be able to push conversation, because I believe conversation creates change. So that is my reason for really running after this movie. I really chased it,
yeah.
to want
Talk a
to.
little, talk a little about that process if you can, please. How
I
did it
actually,
actually come to be made?
um, uh, Ramin Birani, who's the director of the movie, the book is dedicated to him.
Yes, yes.
Him and Arvind Adiga were college friends, and Ramin had
Colombia.
read, yeah,
Yeah.
Columbia. And Ramin had read like the manuscript from him before the book even came out, etc. So I had read the book when it came out in 2008, probably with the world, and I was very moved by it. And just like everyone else, I felt very uncomfortable, but yet I was very entertained, and all of those feelings. I actually read it on Twitter,
Mhm.
on Deadline or Hollywood Reporter, one of the
Right.
trade magazines. I read a lot of the trade magazines. And I read that Ramin was adapting it for Netflix. And I remember I called my agents immediately and I said, let's call them, tell Ramin I would love if he would take a meeting with me. I want to offer my services as an executive producer. At that time, I wasn't sure what Pinky's part was, because in the novel, Pinky's role is from, it's very voyeuristic from the perspective of
Mm,
Balram. She's not really a real person.
mm.
So I actually met Ramin to offer my services as an EP, and then he talked to me about Pinky's role, and I was like, yes, only because I wanted a really immersive experience. In India, I've done so many different roles, so much variety of work. But America, my career as an actor is still very nascent. I've just done, few things, and I'm still building. And you have to start from the bottom, to walk up again. So this is one of my first forays as an actor as well into dramatic parts in America. People here have not really seen me do the work that, my people who've been exposed to my Hindi movies have. So I'm on a quest to be able to do work like that. And I auditioned with Ramin. I met him. I did 3 readings with him. I met him in Mumbai. I met him in New York. I met him in LA. He came to my house. We did a reading. He recorded it. And then I got the job, thankfully. But I really chased him.
Great, because Pinky is a very powerful way of. I mean, she's an outsider, so she can actually tell you exactly, what's going on. And there's a lovely quote. The door was always open. You just didn't see the key. I think that's a lovely quote that you have. That really sums up a lot of your experience as well, doesn't it, in America?
Um, I don't think I don't think I was aware of the door being open. I think I had to kick it down a little bit.
There was no key. You just had to break it down.
Had to break it down.
But Pinky's character is really beautifully and soulfully told in the movie. It's a little more better than in the book.
It's definitely been developed. Ramin was very clear about the fact that, because the book is written mostly as a voiceover,
Yeah.
and it's all his thoughts. That's really difficult to adapt if you don't have a real person to sort of adapt that thought to. So he really required Ashok and Pinky to be developed more than it was in the book. I mean, this is me speaking on his behalf because I've heard him say this in other
Right.
interviews. So but I think like Pinky's character to me was very peculiar. I'll
Hmm.
tell you why, and maybe you'll understand this. Not everybody does, but uh, so being an Indian, I understand the complexity of the vortex of poverty.
Hmm.
You know, it's not as easy as wanting to get out of it. It's not. But Pinky is an American, and she comes from that very privileged sort of perspective of where she, in that one scene where she relates with him and says, my parents
Yeah.
worked in a bodega, and I pulled myself out of my circumstances, you should as well. That's such a fake woke thing to
Hmm.
do, when you look at it from outside and say,
Yeah.
I pulled myself out. You had food to eat, you
Yeah.
had shelter. This guy has a family of 17 who don't know where their next meal is coming from.
Right.
It's a very different thing. But I had to, as an actor, become unaware of my awareness
Hmm.
and play this character who really genuinely wanted to help.
Hmm.
But conveniently, when it was convenient for her,
Hmm.
she stepped back.
Hmm.
When they blamed her, she didn't do anything about it,
Yeah.
right? So it's the complexity of the grays of a human being who's trying really hard to say, I'm woke,
Hmm.
I want to be on the right side of everything. I want to treat people with respect. But at the same time, when it was convenient, you took it.
Hmm.
And that's the reflection on humanity that I find so interesting in this book, is that no matter how good your intentions are, you're only good till your action.
Yeah.
And that's such a reality for everyone. So it required a in my head, I had to really really be complex about it, which was great fun as an actor.
Which is why you're getting great reviews and a lot of buzz about Best Supporting Actress. Are you nervous?
Oh my gosh, can you even imagine? This is my first like dramatic part. Who wouldn't be excited about that?
Of
But
course.
I'm not someone. I'm just grateful for the fact that my work is being seen and I'm being spoken about as an artist. It's really something that I want to go after, and I'm actively looking for and creating work that will give me the opportunity to do that. So I'm just grateful to be even counted amongst those amazing female performances that we've seen this year.
Yeah.
And fingers crossed. If I'm very proud of the movie, and also of the work everyone's done in it. So let's see what the journey of this movie is meant to be.
Yeah, I think it'll be fantastic. Okay, so Priyanka, what's next for you? We know that you're in Matrix. We know that you're in Text for You. What next? Are you coming to India for anything? What are the plans? Tell us briefly.
I just finished Matrix and I just finished Text for You actually during the pandemic. It's
Hmm.
pretty crazy. And I am getting into my Russo Brothers show that I'm doing now for Amazon with Richard Madden. And right now I'm in London and
Super.
I'm training. Yeah. And I'm training for it and stuff at the moment. It's a really cool, sort of futuristic show and part. So I'm very excited about it. But that's going to take me to the end of the year. And after the end of the year, I'm hoping I have a bunch of movies that will be ready by that time that we've been developing. So I have to do those as well. I'm in talks with a couple of my friends in India as well to do a Hindi movie, which I really want to do. But that's like scheduling and stuff is happening. So, there's a lot of work coming up. Some really exciting things that I've produced, and some really exciting things for myself as well. So it's a cool time. I'm really excited to be bearing the fruit of the investment for the last 10 years.
And I think we're all going to be reading the book and texting you madly about all the things that terrify
You
you.
must text me. You must text me, Kaveri, please.
Okay, so thank you so very much, Priyanka Chopra, for being with us, for talking to us for Unfinished. And again, many congratulations on White Tiger. And if there's anything beyond global domination, I hope you get there.
Oh, thank you so much, Kaveri, for always being a champion. Really means a
Thank
lot
you.
to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.